November 16th, 2007. Mr. President, the Senate will be coming in for pro forma sessions during the Thanksgiving holiday to prevent recess appointments. Now, I understand there's a lot of legalese that goes on here in Washington, D.C. We have the Constitution right here. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 3. This is the important part. This is the important part. With the advice and consent of the Senate, the President shall appoint. And the President has the power to appoint without the Senate during recess. But now we're in what's called pro forma sessions. Because the Constitution also says that no body of Congress, the House or the Senate, neither the House nor the Senate, can adjourn for more than 3 days without the consent of the other body. We've seen that in some state legislatures across the country, haven't we, where folks just take their toys and go home, Mr. Speaker? They just decide they don't like the way things are going, so they just leave. The Founding Fathers, 200 years ago, sensed that challenge and wrote it into the fabric of our founding document. No body of Congress, neither the House nor the Senate, shall adjourn for more than 3 days without the consent of the other. And what that leaves you then with is these bodies in what they call pro forma session. Pro forma session. We're in. We're open. Every 72 hours, the Speaker comes up here to the microphone, gavels us in. The House is open for business. When business is done, they gavel us out. Is it a full day? No, it's not. Are we in session? Yes, we are. And this is a process that has gone on for decades. In fact, dozens of decades. And in November of 2007, when Senator Harry Reid was trying to prevent President George Bush from making recess appointments, he said this: we're not going to go into recess. Ha! Ha! I've got responsibilities to the people back home, Harry Reid said, to advise and consent on all of your appointments. I think you're going to try to pull one past us while we're gone for Thanksgiving. In fact, I think you're going to try to pull one past us while we're gone for Christmas. So what am I going to do? The Senate will be coming in for pro forma sessions during the holiday to prevent recess appointments. Mr. Speaker, this was 2007, where it was well known that the law of the land is that while the Senate is in for pro forma sessions, no president, not President Bush and not President Obama, can make appointments without the advice and consent of the U.S. Senate. November of 2007, well known. Harry Reid presiding over the U.S. Senate, issuing those words: we will remain in pro forma session to prevent recess appointments. And this President, whose Justice Department put together literally dozens of pages to defend this departure from constitutional tradition, to defend this rejection of 200 years of congressional precedent, to defend this going around Congress, said, no, we think you can do it. Majority Leader of the United States Senate knew you couldn't do it. Framers of the Constitution knew you couldn't do it. And this President, as if it was nothing, which is what troubles me the most, Mr. Speaker, as if it was nothing, pulled together a press conference and said, I'm doing it anyway. Richard Cordray, Consumer Protection Board. This is a confirmation that didn't occur during a recess. President made his nomination while the Senate was absolutely in session. The Senate voted, Mr. Speaker, and did not confirm. Could not get the 60 votes necessary to move forward on the confirmation, took the vote, couldn't move forward. The vote occurred, it occurred in the negative. And while the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate remained in pro forma sessions, working out those issues I talked about earlier, the doc fix for our friends on Medicare, to make sure that the resources were still available for unemployment, to make sure the program was reformed and funded, for Social Security taxes, to make sure that the trust fund was funded and that workers were satisfied. While all of those things were happening in this body during session, the President decided, no, in fact, we were not in session, and he would make appointments. And started with one that had already been rejected by the United States Senate. Then went on to name 3 more members to the National Labor Relations Board. That was a smaller press conference for that one, Mr. Speaker, because that one was much more controversial. No press conference at all, in fact, just a press release. And then the President said, look out, I may do more. I may do more. You know what? I kind of like this thing where I get to do whatever I want to do. I kind of like this thing where it doesn't matter what the Senate says. It doesn't matter what the representatives of the states say. It doesn't matter what the representatives of the people say. I've got an agenda, and Congress is standing in my way. And if you will not work with me, Congress, I will go around you. Article 2 delegates authority to the executive. Article 1 delegates authority to this House. Article 1 delegates authority to the people's House. You cannot go around the people in America. I can't do it. The President can't do it. The military can't do it. That's not what we do. Are there countries around the globe that do that? Yes, there are. Our forefathers fled those countries to come here, where the only power vested in government is that we the people give it. Hear that, Mr. Speaker. You know it to be true. The only power held in this city, in the capital of the free world, the center of free speech and freedom of religion, the beacon of hope and prosperity all across the world, every bit of power that is here because the American people elected to share it. There's no inherent authority in being the President of the United States. It comes from the people. There's absolutely no authority in being a congressman of the United States. It comes from the people. The President has the power to execute the laws passed by this body. But he does not have the power to make new laws on his own. We've heard that from executive branch agencies across the board. The President has the power to choose who he would like to be in those positions of power in those agencies. And he can make those selections with the advice and consent of the United States Senate. It's not about me, Mr. Speaker. It's not even about this body. When the President tramples on the Constitution like this, he's trampling on the Senate's powers. But when he tramples on the Constitution, he tramples on my freedom. And he tramples on your freedom. He tramples on all of our freedoms, and we cannot let it stand. What are we going to do? Well, candidly, what makes this so troubling is the Constitution didn't actually imagine that we would ever elect an executive that would simply go his own way. There is no slap on the wrist. We can't send the U.S. House Sergeant of Arms down there to prosecute this kind of offense. What happens is it plays itself out in the courts, and we're going to see it. Everyone who's regulated by this Consumer Protection Board, they're going to sue. Folks who are regulated by the NLRB, they're going to sue. It's going to go across the street to the United States Supreme Court to try to decide about this division of powers. And if it gets there, folks are going to decide in favor of the very plainly written words of the United States Constitution. But, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't have to be like this. The President said, I'm going to change the tone in Washington. The President said we can work together to implement an agenda for the American people. Mr. Speaker, you stand here ready to work. I stand here ready to work. And the President said, I can't work with you. I'm going around you. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who the President thinks we are, but I'm a mouthpiece for 1 million Americans back home in the 7th District of Georgia. I come here with their hopes and dreams. You're the voice of 1 million constituents in your home state, Mr. Speaker, and you come here to do their bidding. The President isn't fighting with this House. The President's fighting with the American people. And I say to you, Mr. President, if you get on the wrong side, Mr. Speaker, I encourage you to share with the President. If he gets on the wrong side of the American people, he's on the wrong side. We can work together, and we do work together. And I encourage folks to watch 2012. I had great hopes, Mr. Speaker, for what would happen in 2012. And the President's very first act was not to work with Congress, but to go around Congress. The license plate of the vehicle that ran over the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, it reads Illinois. And we have to stand up and reverse. And I thank the Speaker for the time.
Gentleman's time's expired. The Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Speaker, I move we do now adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Today, members of the House voted 239 to 176 to disapprove President Obama's request to raise the debt limit by $1.2 trillion. The bill now